RWBY Volume 5, Episode 13, Downfall. So this is the penultimate episode of this season, unfortunately, and fortunately in some ways. So next week is our actual season finale. I'm excited for it. I'm really excited for the next episode. I'm super curious because this was it's fairly definitive in some of the things that happened without a doubt, but there's still some action to be had. A lot of the characters technically are, a lot of the villains are still just kind of out there in the middle of this battle, even though you have like everyone teaming up with Blake. So I don't know how long that could possibly go with Adam. As cool as he is, he's surrounded, so I don't know how long that's gonna last. But going into this episode, I was super excited, of course, going into just the insane reveal of Raven being the maiden and how that was about to play out. And I think everyone pretty much said the same thing in my last review, which was, sweet, we get to see Cinder finally just get put down, which was admittedly great in this episode. But I'll save that for the end because that was like just the holy crap moment of the episode. But everything in this episode was still really cool. We learned officially that Jean's semblance technically isn't him utilizing his aura, so that question is kind of still up in the air as to what his semblance is, which I love that that's how they're kind of playing with this. It's kind of a semblance, but not really. He's able to, utilize his aura, so it's just the fact that because he happens to have so much aura, he's able to utilize it, as where everyone else is like this tiny little thing, and for him it's like just, in bulk size, so he's able to just push it off on people. So technically it's not really his semblance, which is interesting, but we've seen it at some point. It's in there somewhere. I guess at this point, with them explaining it the way that they did, which I love that they put it in there exactly in this way, where Jean himself is like, no, I don't think this is my semblance, it's something else. So it's like, all right, back to speculating, but he basically has like his own cool little thing because of the aura, but it's not necessarily a semblance. But I do think it's cool. It is it's definitely a way to, in an odd sense, I mentioned in my last episode review, it does kind of tie into RWBY Grim Eclipse, where his powers are to like buff the team and stuff. So I thought that was kind of funny that that's how they did it, but it's still not necessarily his semblance. It's just a thing that he can do. So speculate, the speculating continues as far as what his actual semblance is. Maybe it has something to do with when he was training in the forest, and the little blades of grass rustled when he swung the blade. So that could be it. That could have also been him just pushing his aura, because we've seen Ren do it, which I wish we would see him do that more, but when he used it as like an actual force field. So he was able to do that. Jean's able to actually use it to heal other people. Maybe he'll learn to do it, even better, and that's what we got to see. So who the F knows what his semblance is. They were kind of effing with us, so he has his own special little thing with his aura. But that was super cool. We also got to learn about Hazel's thing, which I recently finished my Let's Play of RWBY Grim Eclipse, because I was playing with with Team Juniper, and I was talking about in the last episode, like, I don't know what his thing is, but it has to be somewhat related to either super strength or just pain, and it ends up being that he can basically ignore all pain. I was like, it has to be something there where it's like he can either just fight a bunch. It's something to do with super strength. Sometimes they kind of combine that with being nearly invulnerable just because your body's stronger, but he can completely block out pain like entirely. So that's why he's able to use dust, which I thought was cool. And also we get to see him actually like shoot lightning, which I thought was really cool, because I thought it just made him stronger and to like supercharge his body, but it was like, nope, he's able to actually utilize the dust within his body, and he's able to shoot it. I'm still curious if that can kill him though, because we see that he's got like his veins are all messed up and stuff above where the sleeves are, so it's like he's able to get past the pain, but that doesn't mean he can get past the effects on his body. So I thought that was interesting. I feel like he's the type of character they could keep around, and he has like a natural death. None of the characters can like naturally beat him because he's so insanely tough, but he'll just die eventually because he's using up his body like crazy. So I think that'll be cool if that's how they end up using his character. But he shoots lightning, he hits Ren, so of course Nora jumps in. I was like, well, he's screwed now, and of course he grabs her. She's affected for a little bit, then it's like, okay, I have now adapted this lightning to my own power. She flips him, and then she hits him with that hammer, and just he's out of there. He's launched. He doesn't get knocked out, of course, but he's launched out, and that's how we get kind of shot into the Adam Blake situation, which I'll admit that was the one thing I was disappointed in. We might see it in the next episode, but I have been saying this entire volume, I've been saying it for like 3 volumes now, I'm just waiting for Adam versus Blake. That has been like my #1 most desired fight in all of RWBY. That is all I've been waiting for forever. And I was like, this is it. Finally, they're interacting, and Blake does a quick dodge, and she hits Adam on the head, or Yeah, she hits Adam on the head, and I was like, crap. But it seemed like it was all said and done because they were surrounded and everything. But he's still like, even though he had 6 people with him, which I thought was hilarious. He's like, kill everybody, and I'm like, there's like 6 of them. Like, there's not gonna be that much of a fight. But I thought it was pretty funny. So we probably will still get to see Adam. He probably took off, after Blake went into, see everyone else, which was an interesting moment. Of course, she goes in, everybody freaks out, and they see her, and she hands across the room. It's like, oh, Weiss has this new power. Oh man, there's RWBY. All she says is Yang. That's like the first and only thing she says. It's like, Yang, and she looks right at her. And I was like, I don't know 100% if they're pushing that or if they're just messing with us. So I don't know. I mean, we had the Bumblebee song come out. If you haven't listened to that song, that's like one of my favorite songs from last volume. It's great. It's just Bumblebee. It's like BLMBL. Like, it's not the actual full word. You'll have to look it up. But it's a great song. It's one of my favorites out of like all the songs we've had for the show so far. And I'm not even sure it was actually used in any of the episodes. I could be wrong. It could have been, an instrumental thing. But I don't think that song was ever actually used. Not that I can recall. But great freaking song. So look up Bumblebee. It's a really good song. But I'm like, okay, they're possibly pushing something. Maybe not. Just, effing with their heads. We'll see what happens there. But I was like, that's interesting. That's a very interesting thing to do. So I'm sure we'll see something with that. If not in the next episode, then in the next volume for sure. But loved all the action and everything was, really cool. But of course, they saved all the insane epic stuff for the end of this episode, I guess it was like the second half of the episode, really. And that was Raven versus Cinder. And it went full DBZ. They were, jumping all over the place, going through the air. They were legitimately flying at some points. So it was just nuts. And it was super cool, too. And this is something that I never realized before. I always assumed that Raven's blade was red. I thought that was her thing because it fit with her red and black aesthetic. So she had like a red katana. And then it turns out that was just, dust in the form of a katana. So I thought that was super cool where she's going through this battle with Cinder, who she's making all of these different types of blades and stuff. So I loved the whole fight because it was just like katanas and all sorts of swords. So I was like, this is amazing. But as they're going through the fight, Raven basically switches up the elements because it starts with her using fire, but that's like Cinder's thing. Like, she always uses, fire based dust. So she switches it up throughout the fight where she, I think the first thing she goes to is actually lightning. So it's like a gold katana. And then she switches to, of course, ice. So you have blue. I have no idea what the green is supposed to be unless that's going to be related to like air and stuff like that. But I thought it was so cool. I was like, all right, they're going through, and she's, every time a blade shatters, she has basically an empty sheath, and then she will, get another blade out. But something that they kind of revealed, there's like 2 quick scenes where they show it. The first part is where Cinder and Raven actually switch weapons midair. The blade is completely black, and I think when it's a completely black blade, I think that's just an actual, a regular katana. And I was like, I feel like they did that on purpose, where Raven knew what she was doing, and it was like, okay, I'm gonna basically, pull out the plain blade where it's just a sword, and I'm gonna, do it where we have to switch weapons. So then when Cinder grabs the blade, she's just using a normal katana. Like, there's nothing special about it whatsoever, while she's now going up against Raven, who has her weapon, which is, of course, infused with magic. And I was like, I feel like that was definitely a purposeful move to get like a little bit of an advantage on her. So I thought that was cool. And then there's another part when they jumping through the rocks. It was such a cool move. It reminded me a lot of Crow too. It was like one of the cool moves he did against Tyrion when he threw the sword to like catch himself, and he threw it in the ground so that he could catch himself while he was spinning. And she did the same thing where she launched the blade into like a rock, and she flew at it and flipped around and then did like a double kick to Cinder. And I was like, that was super, super cool. It was a simple move, and I was like, that's really cool with all the crazy stuff they're doing. That was like almost like a slow motion moment that looked really sweet. So that was awesome. They had the crazy moment where they clash like the giant blades, and it's like, full Sephiroth mode and stuff. So I was like, that was super cool. And like I said, it was full DBZ mode where they're jumping all over the place and giant like energy clashes and stuff. So it was all awesome. Like, I love that whole fight sequence. And there was a split second when I think it was actually after the big clash when Raven gets pinned up against the gate. There's a split second where for a little bit of time, Cinder is actually taking some of her power because that's what her arm can do. And I was like, okay, well, does that mean something? Because, by the time it hits the end, because I was like, okay, well, she takes a little bit of her power, but if she dies, no big deal. Like, they even have the whole song playing, like, this is the end, no one's going to miss you when you're gone, this is your swan song. And I was like, yeah, that's how everybody feels about Cinder. She's nothing, and I hope she dies. So the song fit perfectly, I think, to everyone's feelings towards Cinder. But at the same time, when everything came down to it, we didn't see her officially die. It's the same, I'm kind of taking the same route as I did with Weiss, where it was like, they could have done this, they could have done that, especially with her being frozen. It's kind of just like, man, where's a nice flat, hard surface when you need it? Because I thought they were going to legitimately show her get frozen, and she would hit the ground and then shatter. And then that would kind of lead into, well, where does this power go? Is it going to be transferred to Raven, and she's like a dual maiden? Is she, are we going to see this power transfer to someone else? So I was really curious. And then she just falls into, the random infinite pit that everybody likes to throw in secret dungeons. So she just disappears, and I was like, okay, well, if I'm, not even just going the Weiss route, where it was like we could have seen something, just based on her character, she has the powers of a maiden. I don't think she's dead. We literally saw in the last episode when Cinder tried to kill Vernal and take the power when she thought she was the maiden. We saw her freeze Raven, and Raven broke out of that in a couple of seconds. So I'm like, all right, well, sure, Cinder might be a little bit weaker, and that's why she, fell, much further. But it's like, well, we saw Raven break out of it, and it's not like anything really happened to Cinder. Like, she got beat up, but it's not like she actually lost her power. And if anything, like I said, she technically gained power. So I don't think she's gone. Like, there's so many different ways to be like, yeah, she totally survived. They didn't show her die. She didn't like shatter or anything. Plus, she has technically more power than she did when she started the fight, because she took a little from Raven. And like I said, we saw Raven already break out of being completely encased in ice before. So it's just like, yeah, I don't think she's gone. Like, there's just so many ways around her dying. And the only way to really show it is like, that she's dead, is to be like, yeah, she shattered and that was it. And we didn't see that. So I have to say that Cinder is in no way dead, just defeated. And it was still great to see that. But I don't think they got rid of her. Like, she was the secondary face with Roman, and he may or may not actually be dead. Admittedly, I do want Roman to be alive, even though they kind of did it in the craziest way where he got, like, just gulped up. I do hope that he's somehow still alive, and he just, I don't know, cut his way out of that freaking Nevermore, and that was all there was to it, and he reunited with Neo. But we'll have to wait and see how that ends up playing out. But I do think Cinder is alive. That's my theory on it. I would love to know what you guys are thinking. If she is dead, if she's alive, just how that's going to play out. If she is dead, I'd love to know your theories on how you guys think that'll go. But for me, I would say she's not dead. Like I said, same with Weiss. They could have made a definitive moment where it's like, this is it, and that's it. But this was definitely the kind of, the typical writer murder or writer's death, where it's like, oh man, infinite pit, who knows? So they could literally write anything that they want to, because we don't know exactly what happened. They could say, no, she definitely died. If they decide to keep her, they could be like, yeah, well, she broke out of it and she knew she was going to get defeated, so of course she waited to break out of it until she was out of sight. Both of those work 100%. So we kind of just have to wait and see what they choose. I would say that they're probably going to bring her back, unless they do officially decide not to bring Roman back, because I think if they have just one of them, then it totally works. But I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But definitely a great episode. And of course, after all the action is settled, which I love the fact that they gave Vernal like that last little bit where she kind of does the distraction shot, and that allows for Raven to officially take Cinder out. But sadly, she does die, because I was like, okay, well, she's, they did like the whole wounded thing where she's unconscious for most of the battle, then she pops up at the end. But it's like, nope, that was legitimately her last hit. She wasn't able to, recover or anything. She does actually die. So Raven opens up the door, which ends up being a portal, which I don't know if this is how they're going to do it, but when I see a portal, I instantly go with alternate dimension. But it could totally just be a teleporter. It could just be, this is thrown out in the desert or something like that. But I don't know. I mean, there's magic involved now. Like, I mean, we already knew that, but now the characters realize it. So it's like, I don't know. Alternate dimensions wouldn't be that insane to me. But it depends on how condensed they want to keep the story. It's like, do we keep it in the realm of this dimension, or do we start throwing in other creatures from other dimension? Stuff like that. So I think they'll probably go with a teleporter instead of it being like a full-on alternate dimension, and it's like the portals open up to these very well protected places. It could be encased in magic, so if someone was walking through the desert, they could technically never find it, or maybe it literally like teleports throughout the desert, but you always have its set location when you open up the door, something like that. So that's what I think. I would love it if it was alternate dimensions, but then that does go into the whole realm of enemies from alternate dimensions, interdimensional Grim, which admittedly I would love to see what they would do with that idea. But I think it would just be a teleporter to, magically enclosed locations across the planet. But really cool ending. Raven's about to go for whatever this weapon's going to end up being, and then Yang just drops in behind her, and it's like, all right, well, next week, that is it. So I'm definitely looking forward to next week's episode. I really hope we get Adam versus Blake like I want. I've been craving that forever, so I hope it actually happens in next week's episode, or I'm going to be really upset, but I'm sure I'll still love the episode either way. But this is definitely awesome. Cinder was finally, temporarily, I guess, put down. We'll see what they do, but it's just like, yeah, just like with Weiss, I was like, that could have been super definitive, and it would have been like, oh, dead, next maiden, whoever that may be. But they kind of left it open, and plus that would be a whole thing too. Is like, well, now we go on the search for the new maiden, which I don't think would be a bad season. But with everything still kind of ramping up, almost in a weird way, still ramping. That might not be something we see for, a little bit. But looking forward to the season finale, naturally. But of course, I would love to know what you guys thought about this episode. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, least favorite parts about it. Of course, the big question is, what are your theories and just what do you want to see for the season finale? Like I said, Adam versus Blake. I've been waiting for that forever. I thought it was completely said and done when she hit him over the head, and I was like, that's it? And then, ultimately he does end up escaping. So I'm like, might get that fight. I really hope we do. I would love to get the answer officially as to whether or not Cinder is dead or alive, but I don't think I don't know. It's hard to say. They always have like that little extra credit sequence after the credits. So it's hard to say. We might get the official answer at the very end. Who knows? It could end and it brings Roman back. I would love that. If that was like our extra credit sequence next week, it was like, surprise, Roman's officially alive. I would lose my mind. That'd be a great way to just cap it off. But I would love to know your theories on how things are going to play out in this finale. And like I said, just want to know what you guys want to see for the finale. And of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general. So please comment below. Let me know. And thanks for watching.